economy, market, and workers' democracy. Okay, let's go.
Okay, well, I will start. Good morning, everybody. We are here with the ghost speakers, not in the room. Possible is you are the ghost speaker.
Yes.
Okay. Hello. So, okay, I work in a work more wide. I work about, which is a work in progress, about socialist transition and communism. You know, it's an work that is dedicated to the experience of the anti-capitalist or post-capitalist experience of the 20th century, and you know, the lessons that we can take from experience. You know, the question about post-capitalism is a tension between circumstances that are inside the system, you know, tendencies that live in the system, and also experience of the working class and of the masses that goes beyond capitalism. And that experience that goes beyond capitalism, you have a lot of experience in the 20th century. You have different kinds of revolutions in the 20th century, and I like to say that when we talk about that experience of the 20th century that go beyond capitalism, you have some sides about the future in the past. When you look to the post-capitalist experiences in the 20th century, we are looking also, in some sense, to the future, because you look to some experience, social experience of the masses that goes beyond capitalism, and you have there a very rich cantera, very rich source of experience that was in society that was not in the center of capitalism, but what have a lot of lessons and circumstances that we can think for the future. My work is in 2 or 3 volumes, I don't know. I just published in Braille the first volume. It's about Marxism and socialist transitions, state, power, and bureaucracy. And now I am working in the second volume, which is planification, market, and socialist democracy. And possibly I will work in a third volume, I don't know, that is will take the problem of work in communism. What is the future of work in communism? You know, something I will say about that. Okay, the first volume, I have to tell you, it have a lot of things, but I can tell you something about it. It works around a lot of ideas, but have 3 ideas that are important for me. That one idea is what's happened with the state in transition to socialism, where I put a discussion, I confronted two ideas. One idea of worker state, that is an idea that is more institutional, to say, worker state, you have little agency when you speak up about the worker state, and I put in confrontation with another idea that is dictatorship of proletariat. Don't mind only the word dictatorship. Mind the word that when you tell dictatorship of whom, and you say of proletariat, you can think about a form of state which is a different type of state, in which really the proletariat, you have a lot of discussion, have the power. You know, if you read, I think so, you read some text of Marx, the critic to Hegel of 1843, you know, you have there a concept of Marx about democracy as form and content. Mm-hmm. Democracy as form and content means that in state, in a transitional state, in the sense of Marx, young Marx, democratic state, you have the society in the state. But if you have the society in the state, something is sobra, how to say? something is
Sobra.
sobrar,
Not necessary.
not necessary. You have, and the society is bigger than the state. If you have the society and the state, something in Spain sobra. You know, it's a logical conception. So, in reality, this have a content. The content is that the public questions, the questions that are political, that means the question of all of us, the question of society, not the private question, the collective questions, is taking the hands of the people. Well, Lenin talk about the semi in English, semi-proletarian state, and he talk about that the last cooker, woman cooker, takes in her hands the issues of the state, which is the issues of the collectivity. You are talking about that you break the separation between political society and civil society. You know, the content of the dictatorship of proletariat is a content about the working class exercitando, exercising power. So this is a lot of discussion because you have a lot of substitutionists in the 20th century where the proletariat don't have the power or lose the power. In the Russian Revolution, the workers lose the power in the 20s, you know, 27, 25, 26, no, the same thing, you know, and the bureaucracy took the power. And in the revolutions of the posteriores a Second World War, Chinese, Vietnamese, Cuba were huge revolutions, but the workers don't have the power. You know, there is also another discussion because the workers have the power not for make a new class rule, but for the extinction of all power, on all domination. You know, all of the questions that put Marxism about society talk about extinctions of determination that we have from long, deep in the history, but in the idea of communism, you know, you have the end of the state, you have the end of domination, you have the end also of work as we think today. You know, you have that discussion, here is Ricardo, maybe he studied that, you have that discussion about the transformation of work in activity, more generical concept. So you have, you know, Georges Lefebvre have a book called Lo Stato in Italian, you know, where he said, okay, communism is the end of a lot of determinations, you know, historical determination. I'm going out of the window, but okay, you know, historical determination versus ontological determination, no? Okay, I return. Then I have in this tome, how much time I take now?
You still have 11 minutes.
11 minutes, there's a tyranny of time, this encounter. Okay, then you have two concepts more. I speak about the bureaucracy in the society, bureaucratized society, as a political class, which is a concept that differs from the concept, which is a concept that inspires in Christian Rakowski. I don't know if you know him, was a revolutionary friend of Trotsky, blah, 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 which have a very insight, very profound analysis about the bureaucratization of the ex-URSS, of the URSS, you know, and he called about, okay, we have here a new historical phenomenon, which is not a simple bureaucracy, because this bureaucracy is in the front of the state, have the means of production in his hands, but also is not a class in the traditional sense, because it's not a economical class. For example, a friend of Joseph, no, which is Daniel Ben Said, have a book that discordance of temps, you know, that have a chapter, and he speaks about bureaucracy, class, and castas, I think so. But Daniel don't go to the end of the analysis, you know. He takes the work of Marx, of the 1843, blah, 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 but he don't go to the end of the analysis because he's still, okay, I don't know, blah, blah. He ends that chapter about bureaucracy, and we see that in Christian Rakowski we have an analysis which is different of the analysis that we know in the 20th century of worker state, of bureaucratic collectivism, of black capitalist, state capitalism that is very, very usual in Anglo-Saxon countries and so on. The other question is about the property. The property is a problem in the discussion of classical Trotskyists because the state property has the situation of that. State property is a political property. And it's a state property is a collective. It needs to be a collective property, which means that in a private property is the property of the sociedad anónima, of the capitalists, blah, blah, which all the new forms of property, but private, a private concept, some people that are in the private sectors go to the public sector and don't go very well, like Elon Musk, and return to the private sector because it's not the same, the public sector and the private sector have another law. It's not the same to be an empresario, or a capitalist, and to be political of capitalist, But we have a problem with the state property, which is politically, because the means of production are staticized, are declared social means, but who controls the means of production? Okay, bureaucracy or society? It is bureaucracy is a new form, entre aspas, of a private property, but if it's cumple, if it's fulfills its role, need to be social, collective property. You have an open letter of Jacek Kurom and the other people I am talking very rapid, very okay. The open letter to the Pope, 1965, era como era Jacek Kuron y el otro no era Kowalewski. Bueno, we don't remember. Okay, what they put the question about Poland. In Poland, these other people I don't remember the name was the el hijo, was the filho, the son of an ambassador, and say, okay, we have a problem. We declare the property of the people, and the people have nothing to do with property. Well, it's a very big problem. All the question of Marxism, of historical materialism, have a red, o sea, se vuelven sangrientas, se vuelven profundas. Bloody questions, because you speak about dictatorship of proletariat, property, about a lot of things, and you have to test in the historical experience some situation that Marx and Engels could speak a little bit in general, but not specifically, historically specifically. How much time I have?
5 minutes.
A lot of minutes. Okay. Bien. The second part is one. I want to talk about only one thing, because the second part is about the economical regulation of economy of transition. We go from the state to economy in the transition, and it's a discussion that is not new. The relation between planification, market, and socialist democracy. I think that the most important thing in that triad, triad is socialist democracy, the political question. Because in the transition, the political question have enormous importance because it's a society that is a social formation, not a mode of production established, not international, as a social formation, as an hybrid formation. The political problems are too important, and the discussion, okay, the market node, planification yes, market node is schematical if you don't put in the middle of the question of power. Who have the power? Which class? With all the difficulty to have power. About power is easy to talk, but difficult to ejercitar el power. ¿Cómo se dice?
Exercise.
Exercise power is not easy, you know. If you try to manage, you know, I speak here and we start together to, no, to, ¿cómo se dice? Golpear la cabeza.
Hit the head.
Hit the head, you know. Joseph will have problems to manage this one, okay? And this is very, it's possible if we were a sect, we start to hit each other, you know, and Joseph have to say, well, okay, wait, separate, talk, don't fight, you know. Imagine you a class that have no tradition of law and command of order, the working class exercising power. So it's not easy, it's too difficult. You know, any bureaucracy replace politics with administration. And administration is not the same as politics. A different question. In administration, do you naturalize the situations? You don't look behind. In politics, you look behind. What are the social relations behind the categories? But because the categories are formas de ser.
Ways of being.
Ways of being. Okay, this is Illich Rubin. Okay, one more and I finish. The one question I am working, which is very difficult, is the future of work in this part, because you have the problem that the problem is that can you ontologize work or not? You know, the relationship between humanity and the nature is ontological. 2 minutes, a lot of time. Okay, Barbara. It's ontological. But the problem is that the social democracy and the Stalinism make a fetishism of work. We have another discussion today that the people that attacks work to attack the workers. For example, André Gorz, the end of proletariat. No? And if you read the work of Gorz, you know, they speak about autonomía and heteronomía, you know, and the discussion about that the working class can't be autonomous and can't dominate the living labor, can't dominate the dead labor. We are against that, obviously. Okay, but there is some nuances in the work of Marxism, of Marx. If you take the Grundrisse, where he speaks about the general intellect, speaks as a situation of work that changes. Because, you know, only you don't have to speak about with Fourier that works transforma
develops into
below joy. Now, it's not below joy porque make a speech for today is a work, you know, but it's not a productive work. It's another type of work. Marx have this analysis to say to be a director of orchestra is a very hard work, but it's a productive work in the economical sense. No, it's another thing. So in that sense, I think obviously work is not going to end. But there is another word in English, I don't remember in German, but not in Spanish, that is labor. The discussion about between labor and work. Labor is more the idea of alienated labor, you know, you understand that, no? So, in this question, for example, I like the book of Lukács, Ontology of Social Being, but I like more Pierre Naville. I don't know if you read Pierre Naville. When you read the Ouvre le Nouvel Leviathan, el primer volumen, from alienation to jouissance, you know, he ends in the discussion between work and no work, no? So try to not ontologize the work that is very important, because we have also the text of Engels of how work makes man, but also, and I finish, you have the problem that if you have work in the common sense, you have the possibility of inequality and exploitation. So I'm working in that with Naville and other writers and Marx of Grundrisse, and not with the postmodernists, Gorz and so on. But I think so it's an important discussion. But okay, I have to finish. Thank you.